Welcome back to Mystifying Miracles. Today, the story is about a woman who mistakens anxiety, and it really was something much more serious. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. There was a woman by the name of Jenna Wharton, and her life, it had been going downhill for months. I mean, one bad situation right after the other. And there came a time where she got to have the opportunity to just have she got the opportunity to have a long weekend at a guest house at Pine Cove, and she was ecstatic because she really needed it. I mean, when you're going through a series of just negativity in your life and bad things happening, sometimes you just need that solitude and that alone time. And this is exactly the case for Jenna. A few things that kind of led up to this, why her life was going so poorly. It starts out with something not so severe, but still sad nonetheless. So first, Jenna had been hiding a cat in her apartment. So her landlord was not aware of it, but he somehow became aware of it, and he threatened to evict Jenna. So he did give her the chance to, okay, get rid of your furry friend and I'll let you stay. But Jenna wasn't going to do that. She loved this cat already, so she couldn't do it. So, of course, she got thrown out of her apartment. That was the first of many bad things that started to happen. She also worked for a solar company. She enjoyed her job, and she had been there for a while, but they were downsizing. And due to that, they were also letting people go. So Jenna was one of the people let go. She lost her apartment. Now she loses her job. She's just like, beside herself. And a few months passes, and her boyfriend of 5 years asks her out to a fancy dinner at this nice place, which something they rarely do anymore. So she was so excited. She's getting dressed up and pretty, and she's, looking forward to something good, finally. And she's, looking in the mirror and everything, and she's thinking, you know what? Betty's gonna propose. So that's making her even more giddy inside. So they get to the restaurant, they eat, they have, good talks, but towards the end, he dumps her. I know. When I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this poor woman. So thrown out of her apartment, loses the job, loses her boyfriend of 5 years, whom no, she's not getting married to. I mean, poor Jenna. And soon, this would be the start of her panic attacks. She was sitting at home one night alone, in solitude, just watching a movie on TV. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, her heart rate just starts thumping in her chest, like boom, boom, boom. It starts getting faster and faster. And she's like, what the heck? She didn't know what to do or what was causing it. All she was doing was sitting on the couch. She wasn't talking to anybody or anything like that. Well, she thought, for a second that, oh gosh, is this a heart attack? So she goes to the ER. They do the battery of tests. They do everything, and it's all coming back normal. So they tell her that, looks like you have anxiety. So they give her Xanax prescription and let her go. However, before letting her go, they did tell her, it would be wise to follow up with your PCP, your primary care physician, and then also you need to find a cardiologist so that you can double check, make sure that, all is well. So Jenna agrees, says, okay, I'll do that. And she leaves. Over the following weeks after that ER visit, her attacks, they were still present, but they were a lot less severe. So because they were less severe, she wasn't as worried about them as much. And she had every intention of seeing her PCP and finding a cardiologist, but She just hadn't got around to it as of yet. So once the long weekend arrives and she's looking forward to it, she's, going to the guest house to get away. So she packs up her bag, she gets there. So she pulls out a magazine to just peruse through. And out of nowhere, here comes this severe anxiety attack. It just kept getting worse and worse, and her heart rate was getting faster and faster. So she thought for a moment, maybe I just need some water to sip on. So she goes and gets some water, starts to sip on that. It's doing nothing. So it's actually still getting worse as each minute passes. And she really thought about calling 911 because she was scared. But she thought, I know what this is. This is exactly what happened last time. It's anxiety. She just wanted to be able to handle it on her own. So she sits down on the edge of the bed. She's got her water. The magazine's still there. She's just trying to be calm and gather herself. But her chest is pounding out of this world. I think it was like 10 to 15 minutes passes by where she's contemplating whether to dial 911 or not. And what kind of pushed her in that way to do so was she felt like she was going to pass out several times, and that scared her to death. She thought, okay, this time, what if I am having a stroke or something like that? So she decides to dial 911. Now, the dispatcher on the other end answers the call, and she's taking down the information, trying to keep Jenna calm. She sees that it's a 29-year-old young woman. She's at the Evermore Guest House in Pine Cove and supposedly having a major anxiety attack. The dispatcher said in this particular story, they were used to getting these calls all the time. So much so, they knew exactly the steps to put in place to take care of it. And they had something called like a rescue squad. I never heard of that. But apparently they go out to the scene first and then EMTs, show up after. I don't know how that part works. But on this rescue squad, there were two people by the name of Colleen Harper and Mason Chapman. Now, Colleen Harper, she was great at her job at what she did. And she was known for staying calm in the most extreme situations. So she just had that ability and that gift to do so. Mason and Colleen, they're in the car chatting with each other on the way there, talking about how common. It's another anxiety/depression call. So they get there, they ring the doorbell. An elderly woman comes to the front door. She owns the place. And she says, oh, okay, come right in. I'll show you where she is. She tells them to go up the stairs to room 207. She's like, actually, I'll follow you and I'll take you up there. So they go up these winding stairs. The place was beautiful. It had stairs leading up to the front porch. I forgot to add that part into the story. Wraparound porch, just serene and beautiful. So anyways, once they're inside, they're going up that winding staircase. They get up to room 207. The old lady says, all right, I'm going to give you guys some privacy. If you need me, any questions, I'll be downstairs. She takes off. They come into the room and Jenna's still sitting on the bed. They see that she's a young woman, blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail, and they introduce themselves and say they're there to help her. That's when Jenna, introduces herself, and she begins to apologize because, again, she's that personality where she doesn't want to have to ask for help. She wants to be able to take care of things. She doesn't want to bother anybody. And so that's, why she was apologizing. And so they begin their assessment, and they're asking her, when was the first attack you ever had? She said about 6 months ago. And they're just doing all the thing, asking all the questions. And they see that, Jenna's uncomfortable. Her heart rate is through the roof and she feels like crap. She tells them that, her chest is so tight that she can't even get a breath in hardly. And so, they're looking at her, Mason and Colleen are, and they see that she's diaphoretic, meaning that she's sweating pretty badly, like all over. And they know right away that's not, that's weird. And Colleen's trying to get a heart rate or a pulse, but the pulse was so erratic and through the roof that she couldn't get it. So Colleen pulls out the pulse ox, puts it on Jenna's finger, and it reads 250 beats per minute. So, yeah, no wonder poor Jenna's feeling so awful. They saw that Jenna's eyes were now like saucers and she's still sweating, profusely. So they know right away, okay, this could be a dangerous situation. So they have Jenna laid in on the bed, flat on her back, and they continue her assessment, checking all vitals and getting a good medical history. But there really wasn't history so much so, because Jenna said the only thing that ever happened to her was she broke her arm when she was 5 years old. That's it. So there wasn't much to document there. So she tells them about all the stresses that she's been having in her life for the last few months. She tells them, look, I was given Xanax at the ER and I really haven't had to take it so much, but I did take it tonight. However, it didn't do a thing. It did not make my heart rate feel slower or the anxiety go away. It only made me sleepy. Colleen asks Jenna, well, is this typical of your attacks? When they come on, are they always like this? And Jenna says no, that this one tonight, it was way worse. Like it was indescribable. It was that much worse. She tells her, straight up, like, I wasn't even going to dial 911. The only reason I did, I thought I was going to pass out. And I didn't want to take any chances that what if this time it is, a heart attack or something like that. Colleen assures her that she did the right thing. It's great that she called and it's important that she did so. She then checks her blood pressure and it was 164/96. So yeah, it was pretty high as well. Now during this assessment, Mason had stepped out of the room to go get the EMTs that had arrived. He was going to go downstairs and show them the way up. So he had just walked back in with two paramedics by the name of Ty Fleming and Paula Pritchard. Now Ty, he was a great guy. He loved what he did. He was passionate. And in fact, he had a passion to become a doctor one day. So he was in classes in med school to become that. This was great in this situation. Colleen briefly informs them of all their findings, everything that's gone on in the assessment. And he tells Jenna that, all right, we're going to see what's going on with that heart of yours. So they attach a monitor to her and they get an ECG. They want to get a good reading to see what that electrical activity is looking like inside of her heart. The results come out and they say, well, supraventricular tachycardia. So basically an abnormal rhythm because of the heart rate is just erratic and through the roof. It's just high. But in extreme cases, like Jenna's, it can be fatal because it can, in rare moments, bring about a heart attack. So it's a good thing that she did decide to call for an ambulance. They get an IV started and they give her an antiarrhythmic drug called adenosine. I forget how to pronounce that one. But basically, they're wanting to get her heart rate back into a normal rhythm. And that is the purpose of this drug. Within minutes, Jenna's heart rate is now below 100 and she instantly feels better. She begins to tell them verbally like, oh my gosh, this is great. Thank you so much. I feel so much better. They carefully get Jenna back down the stairs because they are going to take her in to make sure all is well and whatnot. So they had to get her down those winding stairs very carefully. And Jenna tells them, she was honest, like, I regret not doing right away what the ER, medical staff told me to do, which was to see my PCP and a cardiologist. I was going to, but things didn't seem so severe anymore, and I put it off. I wish I wouldn't have done that. And it's, what was brushed off as anxiety wasn't anxiety at all. It was actually the SVT. So, of course, this, long weekend, little vacation, if you will, it was not at all relaxing, obviously, or restful. But Jenna did learn something. She learned what was going on with her. And she felt fortunate after this whole event that she was finally getting some answers. And they were so kind and so helpful, all these medics and rescue squads and everything. And, she needed that in this confusing time. Why she didn't want to be a bother to anybody. She learned to accept help, to not try to do everything on her own. She was just needing a little encouragement, a little bit of guidance and strength. And she realized that. So, the miracle of it is, yeah, she found out about this and it wasn't brushed off as anxiety for a second time, which only God knows if that would have been fatal had it happened that way. But also she learned some goals and just what she should do next time when these stresses come out and she needs help. Not to take it all on herself and not to be afraid to ask for help when it's needed, because there's always people there willing to help. It's hard sometimes when you've got that mindset you don't want to, like I said, you don't want to be a bother or bug people. It's a hard thing to learn. I could speak from that personally because I'm also that way. I always think that, so maybe this story, I'm thinking about it now again, maybe that's a good thing for myself because I'm very bad at that. I'm very bad about saying, could you help me with this? Or, I've gotten better in the way of talking to God about my problems. I'm way better. Ooh, way better. But I'm still terrible when it comes to asking another human for help or things like that. So probably I could take something personally from this story as well. Let me know what you guys think. I just appreciate you for following and for watching. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have an incredible week, and I'm going to see you guys next time.